We're all set, Pete.
Okay, everyone, welcome to the Town of Colonie Planning Board. We hope everybody's healthy. There's been some good news in the media, and hopefully we're going to have a good spring and a good summer. The meeting is now called to order, and we'll do a quick roll call. My name is Peter Studo. I'm here. Chief Hyder.
Here.
Susan.
Here.
Okay. Lou Mayan.
Here.
Chip.
Here.
Craig Shamlian.
Here.
Paul Rosano.
Here.
Okay, great. I'll say for the record that today is Tuesday, February 23rd, 2021 at 6:00 p.m. Next item on the agenda, report of the Planning and Economic Development Director, and that would be Sean McGuire.
Thank you. What I want to go over tonight is some updates that we've made to our department website, which impacts certainly the planning board's ability to access case files, but as well as the public. As you know, in our comprehensive plan from 2019, one of the goals was to improve our overall public communication. I think we've made some great strides over the past year, including the town's new email newsletter, the State Connected program that we're participating in, as well as changes we made to the overall existing website. So what I'm going to do is share with you and a first look at where we're headed with this new website. So what you should see right now on your screen is the site that you're all very much used to, that we've had for quite some time now. One of the things that we found is that this can get a little clunky. There's a lot of information out there, but we felt that we could do a better job by bringing this back into the town's website, give it the same look and feel that other departments have, but also add some new features that improve the ability to access information on projects. So I'm going to jump over to the new site now, which is going to be hosted at colonie.org/department/PEDD. We are in the process of migrating or changing where the coloniepedd.org site redirects to. That should be complete in the next couple of days. It takes about a week to make that transition. So we started that last week. So you won't see that right away, but if you go to the town's website, you'll be able to get in. And we're doing this at this point in time because we did have information out for the public on the current, I'll now call it the former website about this meeting tonight. And so we did not want to make a switch until really tomorrow. So tomorrow will be the day that we stop supporting our older site, and all of our efforts will be focused on the town's website. So what I want to point out are some key features here that I think that are important to the public, and I'll just keep this to about 5 minutes or so. We've got our overall landing page here for the Planning and Economic Development Department with some overall information about our responsibilities. Directly related to the planning board, you'll see here on the right-hand side under our contact information, some immediate links in for the planning board agenda summary and minutes, as well as projects and case files. And there's some additional links we certainly invite you to explore. We've made some of this information a lot more accessible than it was previously. One of those being our town maps. We did not have that directly linked before, but we do now. So I think that'll be a great addition, a great change. I want to point out two important changes that are happening. One, when it comes to the planning board's agenda summary and minutes, for some time now, we've been using the meeting portal that the town board uses. And so this is our hard switch over to that format. You'll see here this link to the planning board agenda summaries and minutes. We'll bring folks back into the meeting portal. Will they be able to drop down and select planning board or any of the other boards here in the town and get the agendas and minutes here. And so you see we've got the agenda for the 23rd right here. The agenda pack and the agenda are the same items. And then you see for the second, summaries and minutes are there. And we're also adding the videos in from these Zoom meetings, but they take a little bit of time to process and get up there. So that's where the public and anybody who's interested can access the meeting schedule and the meeting agendas. Going back over to the website, as well as the minutes. Going back over the website, if you click on this projects and case files, it'll bring folks to the planning board's landing page, which has information about who you are as members, some related resources, our upcoming meeting dates, information about the meetings and our webcast on YouTube and on Zoom. But this is the feature that we've added in, and we're really excited to roll out. In the past, we've put project files up for a specific meeting, and they've been replaced 2 weeks later by the next meeting's set of documents and items. What we wanted to do was give greater access to the entire case file throughout the life of a project, because there are some times that board members as well as the public have looked for prior information that's not necessarily part of the current packet. And so we're actually using an integration here with Dropbox. The board has been able to access files via Dropbox, and thank you for, in a way, being our test cases to make sure that that was a user-friendly environment. But we've integrated a Dropbox feature into the town website where we'll host these projects and case files. What we're doing now is that as meetings occur and as we assemble full case files with some standard naming conventions, we're bringing them up to the town website. And so you may not see every project out there, but we are in the process of rolling those out. But for tonight, for example, we do have the Dunsback Ferry Road, 80 Dunsback Ferry Road here, and we do have 4 and 6 Auto Park Drive. To access those files, it's pretty easy. You'll just be able to click into the folder itself, and you'll see a number of different files. And I said, this is some of our standard file naming convention where we have a date filed by the project number and a brief description of what the file is. And so we think that'll be very helpful for people to navigate through. The reason we do this is that it'll show the oldest files with the oldest date at the top and newer files at the bottom. If a file doesn't have a date for some reason, as we're transitioning, you will see an ND for no date because we don't have an accurate date as to when that file falls into this timeline. But we are working on resolving any of those, and we don't expect to see those NDs on any projects moving forward. But we may every now and again encounter it with an older project. And so all of the information that you have access to tonight is part of the agenda, as well as back to prior meetings, including some of the narratives at the DCC meetings, items submitted during sketch, narratives, later updated narratives. Those all appear right here on this site. So that's probably the most important feature we want to make people aware of, as well as a change where those meetings, agendas, and minutes will live in this portal. We think that's a much more streamlined approach to getting the project information out there. It allows us to also do it faster. Staff have direct access to these files, so we remove a middle step in the process where we took the files in as staff, we handed them off to a web developer who then had to upload them to the website. So we've cut that whole delay process out, which sometimes could be a day or so. So that's what I wanted to introduce to you tonight on that transition, that move here. Does anybody have any questions? Can I go over anything here?
I have a comment. Sean, you were nice enough to show me the prototype a couple of weeks ago, and I thought our current website was fine, but I think this is a big improvement, and the features you're showing tonight, I think, leaves an open book for the public and also ease of use for the public and the board members. So I think it looks great.
Yeah, well, thank you. Again, we are always looking at our comprehensive plan and the short-term, long-term, mid-term goals and doing what we can to achieve those. And this fits right in there. So we're glad to be there. So if anybody encounters any problems, has any suggestions from the board, please let us know. We're always looking to make sure we have the best experience for board members as well as the public. So that's all I have for my report today for you.
Big improvement.
Okay, we'll take up the action items on the agenda as part of the order of regular business. First item is 4 and 6 Auto Park Drive, Amador Medical Office, concept plan review to reconfigure lots 4 and 6, where lot 6 would include a 240,000 plus or minus square foot 3-story medical office building with parking, loading, and drop-off areas. Waivers are requested for maximum setback and parking front yard. The site is zoned H Core, which is highway, commercial, office, residential. And we'll turn it to the department for any introductory comments they may have.
This project's being run by Zach Harrison. Zach, do you want to chime in?
Yeah, I can start it. So the last time the planning board saw this project was June of 2020 for sketch plan review. The sketch plan compared to here, or the concept plan, hasn't really changed much. There still are waivers that are required. The building exceeds the 20-foot maximum setback from the front yard. We're looking to reduce the parking requirement.
Sorry, may I interrupt? Can we put the site plan up? I think that would be most helpful.
Yep. Another, a couple waivers is the 92 parking spaces under the allowable code. Also, a couple other waivers that are going to be required are the within the stalls, the maximum that you're allowed to have before you had a landscaped island is 20 parking spaces. So there's a waiver for that. The one thing that we also have is an ODA that's going to have to be approved for auto park. As of right now, with the new lot configuration, they will not be able to access that road or to that building without an open development area, because there's no access from a town road. So that's going to be one thing. The applicant that, he did change a few things from the sketch plan review. The loading dock area from the front of the building has been pushed towards the back. And we moved the generator to the back, and it cleaned up the front portion of auto park. The one thing I will say is from the drawing is that the applicant doesn't show any sidewalk connections along the actual frontage of the property. And the planning board, the planning department's actually recommending relocating it from the south side of Auto Park Drive and connecting to the northern piece of the sidewalk along Auto Park, which was just developed probably last year or the year before. And the distance should allow you to get all the way to up to Route 9. But other than that, I'll let the applicant kind of go ahead and go forward with it. I know Dan has a presentation, or Bill has a presentation for this, and it's a PowerPoint, so we can go from there.
Okay.
Sean, the PowerPoint's actually in our planning board file, so you can pull that up as well. There we go. Perfect.
Zach, do you have access to that? I don't have it in the shared file here.
Yes, I have it right here. Let me pull it up real quick. Let me, Sean, if you let me share my screen, I can pull that up for you.
I've got it for you right now, actually.
Okay, perfect. Perfect. There you go. And we'll let Bill go ahead.
Hi, my name is Bill Mafrici with Hirschberg and Hirschberg. Dan Hirschberg might be chiming in at some point. He's at another Zoom meeting in Albany. With me also is Rich Rosen, Columbia Development. We're here for 4 and 6 Auto Park Drive and medical facility. 4 Auto Park Drive will not be changed from its current configuration. We're just doing a lot line adjustment, and as Zach mentioned, we're requiring an ODA because there is no frontage or access to the public road on Auto Park Drive. If you can go to the next slide, Zach. So some of the modifications that were made now from concept from sketch, as Zach said, on the north side of the building, we did have the generator and transformers located in that area. We shifted it to the south side of the building. We also reconfigured a portion of the loading dock in the rear. If you notice, there's a darker hatched area for the pavement. That represents the truck route circulation pattern for larger vehicles. The other we also shown on this plan, which was not in the package, also what Zach said, on the north side of Auto Park Drive, we're proposing a walk. You can kind of see it at the entrance to the existing Goldstein on the north side of Auto Park Drive. We'll have further connection into our site on subsequent submissions. Utilities are going to be, as far as water goes, a looped public water extension, which was requested by Latham Water District, the Auto Park Drive water main, and there's a dead end water main on the south side of number 4 Auto Park Drive. As part of this project, the developer is going to interconnect those two and provide a better distribution of water. The sanitary sewer will be a private system. The site is low towards the cul-de-sac, and we're proposing a force main that'll be connected to the sanitary sewer gravity main at Route 9. Stormwater management is combination of bioretention basins that are going to be between the west side of the parking lot and I-90. I'm sorry, I-87, and dry swales that are interconnected and within the parking area and the limits of the pavement. The balance, well, there's some wetlands on the site, as you can see in hatched areas, green, that will be disturbed and are being permitted through the Army Corps. If we go through the next slide, we're showing site stats for both 4 Auto Park Drive, which again is not going to be changed or altered at this time, and the proposed 6 Auto Park Drive, both of which are conforming and have adequate green space, exceeding 35%. There is one difference in what we're proposing in the parking analysis. We further detailed and critiqued the interior layout of the parking, of the building needs. And in subsequent plans, when we submit for preliminary final, we will not need a waiver or reduction of parking. We'll actually be conforming to the parking requirements based on a combination of regular general office and medical office. And the next slide shows the architectural renderings. This is a view coming down Auto Park Drive and the crotch of the building. The main entrance fully glassed with an overhang and drop-off area. I think fairly attractive building. It is a 3-story building in the front. And the next slide shows the rear view. This is from I-87 view, which is similar configuration, a little less pronounced entrance and drop off in the rear, but we still think fully attractive. If you notice on the top rim of the building, it's a parapet, basically that's going to hide rooftop equipment from the view shed. And with that, I believe that's the waivers. Correct. We're asking, as Zach stated, 2 waivers, one for the exceeding the 20-foot setback for the minor road, and also parking in the front yard. We won't need any parking waiver for the reduction of parking. And depending on how our calculation works out, we might need that additional request of waiver for landscaping with islands parking rows exceeding 20 spaces. And with that, I'd like to open it up to the board for any questions you might have.
Okay, this is being reviewed by our town designated engineer, in this case, Barton and LaJudas, and we have Chuck Voss here. Chuck, and I know you got a letter from the adjacent commercial developer, which is Chris Betty of the Betty Group. Can you incorporate their major comments in your presentation and just do your presentation, if you will?
Sure, Peter, will do. Can everybody hear me okay?
Yeah, Chuck, real quick, I did get just before, sorry to interrupt. We did get a flyover, almost like a presentation for that. Do you want to see the flyover, like it's on YouTube, that the applicant provided us? Would you like to see that before we go into the comments?
Sure. Yeah.
Sure.
Sean, do you mind pulling that up?
How long is it? Short, right? Sure, we'll see it.
It's like a 3D flyover rendering of the actual site.
Okay.
It'll be about 3 minutes.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Thank you. Chuck, do you want to do your presentation?
Sure, Peter. The board should have in their packet our concept review letter dated January 12th. And what I'd like to do is just go through a couple of highlights there. I know some of the items we have in our letter have been just touched on briefly, either by Bill or by Zach, but let me just run through those quickly. And again, this was just at the concept level, so we really kind of took more of a cursory look at the project versus a more in-depth look that certainly will come later in the first preliminary site plan review. But just to kind of jump in quickly, certainly as was discussed, the project right now consists of 2 parcels. One of those parcels via this subdivision and this project will be landlocked. That would be number 4 Auto Park. So the applicant would be looking at potentially an ODA.
Excuse me, can we put the site plan up?
Yeah, unless they can reconfigure the site plan somehow. Number 4 is essentially going to be a landlocked parcel. So we'll look to see, the potential ODA, to remedy that access issue there. In addition, we're looking at about a 240,000 square foot building, 3 stories. The rendering I think that we just saw was certainly very helpful. Gives everybody kind of a nice 3D view, which was great. As discussed earlier, the project is in the H-Core district where commercial office uses are allowed. And certainly this project, in terms of its use and in terms of its scale, is very consistent with what's in the immediately surrounding neighborhood, certainly with Auto Park Drive and projects a little bit further to the north on Century Hill Boulevard. It's really kind of an office park neighborhood, if you will, over there. So project and scale and size is generally consistent with what we see out there. Additionally, all of the utilities that would service the building are in close proximity to the site or available on the site. So there's really no issue there. I don't believe the project's going to require a sewer extension, although that's kind of yet to be seen as the project evolves, but we doubt that. There's existing sewer out there already. Zach mentioned 2 waivers. I won't go into them again in detail, but again, one was for parking. The other one was for setbacks off the minor road for frontage exactly. So we'll see if those remain or if they get modified as the project evolves. That'll help us out a little bit. Green space right now, we're looking at about a 58% total green space. So they seem to meet the 35% requirement easily. Let's see. One of the things the applicant proposed early in their parking lot design was 2 level 2 EV charging stations. We're recommending at least doubling or tripling that, considering the size of the parking lot and considering the potential customers that may use the site. We think 2 is probably just not sufficient for a parking lot of that size. So we'd like to see those increased. Zach mentioned, and we certainly concur, we've had discussions with the planning office about interior sidewalks, allowing people to move freely out of the outer parking lots closer into the building. So we'd like to see maybe some sort of sidewalk network or something developed internally to assist folks from having to walk through aisles or travel lanes. Additionally, up Auto Park Drive, we'd like to see a sidewalk connect up to Route 9. We think that that's an integral piece, certainly for patrons who may visit the site. There's sidewalks existing now on the north side of Auto Park. We'd like to see them continued with a crossover on this side, the south side as well. One of the other things we would like the applicants to do is at least enter into a discussion with CDTA to see about bus access, public bus access. I don't know, and I'm not aware if there's an actual bus loop now that goes through the Century Hill Park, Auto Park Drive loop area. I don't think so, but again, just something to have the applicants take a look at and see if would be feasible. The site potentially could be a destination point for people who don't actually drive vehicles but use public transportation. So that could be an important access. From a seeker standpoint, we're looking at a type 1 action. And we will be working with Sue Pellegrino in the town attorney's office to start coordinating lead agency, the seeker lead agency process, once the project moves past concept. So we'll get that underway. And again, excuse me, We're not exactly sure at this point who will be lead agency, but we're assuming, just given the scale of the project, that it'll probably be the planning board, but we'll work with the town attorney's office to sort that out. The town board will have jurisdiction over the ODA, obviously, but they may defer to the planning board, just given the size and the scale of the project, to be lead agency. So we'll see where that goes. I don't know if it was mentioned earlier, but the project is in the Bout Columbia Street GEIS area. So cumulative mitigation costs for impacts will be assessed to this project, and that is done through the town planning office with the assistance of the Capital District Transportation Committee. So we'll see where that goes. Just a couple other things, landscaping on the site is obviously going to be important. Right now, there's an existing stand of relatively mature evergreen trees along the southeast corner of the site. And what they do is they actually help screen the project and the site from the slip ramp onto I-87. We'd like to see those remain. It's not clear right now from the existing site plan if they intend to keep those or not, but they provide a really nice level of screening of the site, excuse me, from that slip ramp onto 77 and the exit 7 ramp. So we'd like to see that remain. Just a question about just making sure we identify the core wetlands, the Army Corps wetlands that are on the site. And I'm sure we'll have some additional information on that as we get going. Signage was just another question, which we'd like to see as part of their landscape package, just to kind of get an idea if they have freestanding signs on the site. And other than that, Peter, I think that's about it from our letter. But let me read the letter that the board got that you referenced earlier from First Columbia Development. This was dated February 23rd, addressed to Peter Studo, Chairman.
Right. And I'll just say we got it like an hour or two ago. I haven't had a chance to review the whole thing because I was getting ready for other components of the meeting.
Okay.
It might be better if they sent it in a little sooner. Have you read it, Chuck, or have you?
I have skimmed it quickly. I can certainly discuss just quickly some of the bullet points made. But again, like you, Peter, we're really just going to see it and digesting it. So,
Okay, why don't you read the know if we should read. I don't think we should read.
All right, yeah, just by reference, First Columbia is the owner of the lands on the north side of Auto Park Drive. And they do say in their letter that they are supportive of this project, but they have just a couple comments. They would like to see the updated Bout Road, Columbia Street GEIS really kind of be followed. There was a traffic analysis that was done in that GIS, and they would like to just make sure that any traffic analysis done for this project incorporate the Bout GEIS traffic standards, which certainly would make sense. They also note that the GEIS specifically talks about interconnectivity between parcels, and they would like to see access from and to this parcel through the 944 950 Loudon Road parcel, which is a little bit further to the south and east of the site, down by number 4, building number 4.
Somebody tell us with the cursor what that refers to. I don't know if anybody has that capability.
Yeah, it's down in that lower right-hand corner of the project site where number 4 is. Yep. They also talk about site driveways. They note that their narrative discusses 2 curb cuts, but their plan shows 3 curb cuts. And they want to just make sure that the curb cuts onto Auto Park Drive, it looks like, line up with existing curb cuts that are already out there for the existing building on the north side of Auto Park Drive. Yeah. Right.
Do you agree with those comments?
In general, I haven't really analyzed it yet, Peter, from a traffic standpoint. But usually, when you're lining up town roads or new subdivision roads, you like to just in general locate them opposite. It's easier to control the intersection if you have to put a stop sign there or something. But right now, there's no signalized, traffic control devices on Auto Park except for up by Route 9. So, but something we can certainly look at and have the applicant look at as well.
Okay.
They're also talking about having a second means of egress off this site, not off onto Auto Park Drive, but maybe somewhere else. Looks like so. Something to consider there.
Where,
And
where could that possibly be?
yeah, good question. We haven't really looked at it yet. I don't know exactly, where they may have an alternative access out onto, say, Loudon Road, Route 9.
Okay.
But something we could certainly take a look at if the board asked us to. And let's see, they also just noted that there are H-core standards for things like building placement, frontage, maximum setback, sidewalks, public spaces, and the ability to incorporate landscaping and pedestrian improvements to the site up to Route 9. So that's about it.
Okay. Chuck, you gave a lot of substantive comments. I'd like to give the applicant an opportunity to respond, particularly if there's anything they strongly disagree with, and whatever other general comments that they think are significant in response to your review letter.
Yeah, well, just like you guys, we were copied in that letter.
No, I'm talking about Chuck's letter.
Oh, yeah, we're fully in agreement with Chuck's comments. I think as the project progresses and we submit preliminary final, a lot of those things we will have addressed, if not already working to address. Our goal is to revise the plan and get it back in the town's hands as quickly as we can. So we take no objection to Chuck's letter.
Okay. Is there anything else you'd like to comment about the Betty letter, or if you do want to defer that?
Well, I'd like to just make one comment about the additional driveways, or the 3 driveways. You see how the circulation pattern for separated deliveries, as we set up that standard pavement U-type circulation pattern from Auto Park Drive to the cul-de-sac.
Can we see the site plan again? I mean, I know what you're referring to, but I think it's helpful.
And the main entrance, the center one, is obviously for quick drop off and everything related to the operations of the building. With regards to the driveways being across from the adjacent driveways, as Chuck mentioned, usually we try to do that for a public signalized intersection or stop sign. These are all private driveways, and we prefer to not have that cross cut movement, as opposed to perpendicular to each other. We're not trying to promote that.
Okay. We'll weigh that in consultation with our town designated engineer as this process goes forward. Okay, we will did somebody saying something? No, okay. Paul, do you have any comments or questions? We'll take comments from the board.
Just a couple of questions. What would be your plan for snow storage at this point in time, since we're going through Back to the Future here with the snow amounts?
Yeah, I mean, there are some spaces adjacent to the parking lot for snow storage. The most is to the south. The SWIP basins aren't generally intended to accumulate snow. But if we get a crazy snow amount, some of that would have to be trucked off site.
So you plan on to stay away from the west side where you have your detention ponds? That would be the plan at this point in time?
Yeah, most of the snow storage would be on the south property line and perimeter of the parking area.
And as far as the driveway access, I have to agree. We're talking driveway to driveway. Generally, we would talk street to street. We would try to be opposite, but in this case, it's not street to street. It's just driveways with intermittent traffic. So I don't have a problem with the location of those. And calling the third one on the cul-de-sac, that's kind of, it's a driveway, but it's into a cul-de-sac, so I don't really think of that as a curb cut
Yeah.
at this point in time, so I don't have any issue with the 3. And what about, no, I'm gonna stop right there. I want to leave it up to other people to talk. Go ahead.
Okay, Craig?
Sure. First, I think the building is very attractive. I think it'll fit in very nicely there. I agree with Paul. I don't have an issue with the quote unquote three curb cuts. I'm not supportive of interconnectivity to probably any of the adjoining properties, except for it, unless it's determined that we want some additional level of emergency access onto the site. I mean, interconnectivity to any of those other sites is going to put traffic out onto Route 9 at a spot that's not signalized. And it just doesn't make any sense to me. I agree with Chuck's comments. I mean, you need a lot more EV charging stations, and I would encourage you to put some of those in spots where you think employees are going to park, because in all likelihood, the patients coming to the facility are not going to charge. I mean, they might, but they're not generally there all that long. I don't, in most medical office buildings. And then lastly, I know we talked about this at Sketch. I guess I'd encourage everybody to take another hard look at the amount of parking and actually the parking calculation, and whether, it's a medical office building, but it's a medical building that's doing some procedures too. I mean, you've got CAT scans and MRIs and things like that. And I don't know how they figure into the calculation, but it seems to me that if they're figuring in at 175, one parking spot for 175 square feet, I don't know that you need all this parking. I would certainly like to see a bunch of parking banked if that is something that we can move toward. That's all I've got.
Does the applicant have any comment on the parking, that issue that Craig just raised?
Yeah. Thank you, Chairman. This is Rich Rosen with Columbia Development. We've worked with the town of Colonie on this issue with several other projects. I think by the time we get to the next version of engineered civil plans and have an opportunity to review it with Zach and the town engineer, we can look at potential areas that would be a future land bank. But we're very sensitive to parking requirements for medical office buildings. We've done a lot of medical office buildings throughout upstate New York in the Capital District. And right now our parking ratio, I believe, is around 5.3 cars per thousand, right? Very close to, the ratio required by code. I mean, we just see more and more facilities having parking issues, and we just want to make sure that, we can design it and have enough parking per the code, but we are absolutely willing to work with the town and its professionals on reviewing if we were going to land bank, open the facility up, run it for a while, and if parking becomes an issue, we have the additional future spaces all teed up. So we will work with the town on that.
Okay, thank you. Chip, do you have any comments or questions?
Yeah. Getting to building number 4, are they going to put a gravel road in right next to on the east side of the parking lot?
Well, currently right now, building 4 is not part of our plan. We will not be acquiring that existing building. What we attempted to do, as you can see on the screen, is they have, and building 4 will retain property along the edge of our parking lot, on the east side of our parking lot, all the way out to Auto Park. And it'll also have 100 foot of frontage on Auto Park Road. Currently, as you guys may be familiar, number 4 Auto Park has site access in and out through an easement / driveway, if you will, onto Route 9, past, I believe, I don't know, it's 9 It might be 944 or 950. In the future, if that site ever got redeveloped, and that, you know, we took the feedback and the comments from the board from the last meeting when we were looking at how to subdivide this parcel. So we have reconfigured this parcel to make sure that we have sufficient green space and areas to increase parking to, if someone ever came back in the future and wanted to redevelop this site. And if they wanted to, they could put a road in adjacent to ours out to Auto Park, or they could continue to operate the building with its existing ingress and egress onto Route 9.
Okay, I'd like to ask our town designated engineer. So I want to follow up on your question, Chip.
Okay,
Can the town designated engineer or somebody in the department, Zach or Sean, comment on Chip's question and the response, which is, are we creating a problem here with for Auto Park? Or do you believe that the explanation is sufficient and that there will be adequate access in the future?
Peter, it's Chuck. I can chime in. It appears, for Auto Park has a separate access point, or potentially a separate access point via an existing driveway between several other properties down around 944 and 950 Loudon Road. We don't know if that would be part of an ODA agreement or an access agreement, but you can physically access the site that way. And I say the site meaning number 4. You don't have to traverse through the larger parcel, number 6 that we're talking about here to physically do that. However, that would take legal agreements, certainly, as Mr. Rosen was just saying. So, and that project, really is just going to be a standalone, whatever they're going to do with it, a storage building or something. So, from a physical standpoint, you can get in and out of 4 Auto Park right now without having to cross number 6, if you will. But I think it's certainly something, to keep an eye on. If they're granting an easement, along the east side of number 6 Auto Park, and there appears to be enough room there, potentially you could build an access driveway at some point, through there. So, but it's something to take a look at.
Okay, I think we need, to me, that's not a full satisfactory answer that we're not creating. You're not definitively saying we're not creating a landlocked parcel.
it's got to be written in stone.
Excuse me, can I
Sure.
interject a second? The reason it's not landlocked is on Auto Park Drive, we're creating a section that has the required 100-foot frontage, and looks like a flag lot, but in essence, it's not. It's a conforming lot. So there is.
Okay. I think that's an answer. So can Sean or
Bill's correct. They up in the top corner, if Sean has the capability of zooming in, you'll see where the property with the lot line adjustment that they're going to have to do here. You'll see the frontage that they're going to have along Auto Park. It's kind of exactly where Sean's cursor is. He's going to show you on it. They technically have the frontage along Auto Park. The dilemma that we run into is that if any development happens on 4 for that property, they need access from the public, they needed access from this town road. And right now they don't. So that's what we'll end up with.
well, do we do the ODA now? Open development area, which is
I know the letter was submitted to the town supervisor. Sean, do you know the status of that? I know.
No, yeah, that letter went to the town, was submitted to town hall back in November. I don't think it ended up on an agenda, so I'm just going to resolve that by March.
Okay. So okay. Chip, I don't know if that's satisfactory to you, but it is to me.
Well, yeah, I guess it's going to have to be. Yeah.
If I could, from the department's perspective, I mean, we talked about this. I think I'd like to see that there's a connection here. I don't like creating this additional flag lot. I don't like adding, potential additional curb cut, which, we've gotten all the justifications as to why we're not lining these up, and we have the potential to introduce another curb cut directly across it, from a driveway in close proximity to another curb cut. So I think that, from a long-term perspective, I don't think this is the right solution.
So what do you envision? Sharing a driveway with the new medical building?
That's what our suggestion was before, was to share access with the medical office building.
Okay,
And then we definitely would need the ODA, correct? Because it would be a non-conforming lot then if we gave them an easement to access their site through our site, correct?
Well,
Rich, you would need one either way. You would need one either way. That's not a public dedicated road. That's the problem. In a way, it's a technicality, but
If
Well,
the curb cut was on for Auto Park, then the ODA would not be required.
Auto
right.
Park's not a dedicated road, is it?
What was that? I'm sorry.
Auto Park is not a town road, is it?
It
Auto
is.
Park is a town road. Plaza
Oh, okay.
5 is a private road.
Correct. So if the
Yeah.
curb cut was on or for Auto Park, the ODA would not be required because you technically have the access off of that property.
Yeah,
Right.
that was our suggestion, is to create the curb cut for Auto Park and allow 6 access via the curb cut for 4, so we avoid the ODA.
Okay, my comment will be to our town designated engineer and to our planning staff let's work this out, okay? I think you hear what the board's saying. I think the rest of the board members can speak for themselves. But, we support the recommendation, we generally support the recommendation of our staff and our town designated engineer.
All
Yeah,
right.
if I can just chime in one for a second.
Yeah.
The one thing that I'm not terribly supportive of is whether that becomes a flag lot or that strip of property goes with 4 Auto Park. I wouldn't be terribly, I understand that it would certainly meet the 35% greenery requirement, but what I personally wouldn't want to see is a massive building on the lot proper of 4 Auto Park and the green space be that strip all the way along out to Auto Park as the greenery.
Right.
That to me doesn't meet the spirit of green space, just so
Right.
everybody's understands down the road how I would not view that too favorably. So.
And Craig, that's the challenge too, by suggesting this is the access up this strip here, is that if they needed to receive access, we blow the green space ratio out.
Correct.
Okay, so you guys have a little math to do and a little revision drawing to do probably. Okay, Chip, do you have any more comments or questions?
Yeah, I didn't see in the flyover and I didn't, and in the renderings, I didn't see an entrance for, what is it, urgent care on the front of the building. It's supposed to be on the front of the building, the section facing north. No, more in the middle of the L there. Move it over so it's halfway. No. The part facing north on the front of the building. No, over here.
Yeah,
I can't point.
right to the right of the word G in building. Is that where you're talking, Chip?
Yeah, right there.
Right there, that's it.
That we've developed the plan in the building a little further, and at this point, that exit was removed. That entrance was removed.
All right. I don't see any, oh, you have in front of the main entrance, you got on the other, that big island, you have, was it 6 handicap spots? Right there. Right there. Go back to the big island. All those handicap spots. No, down near the main entrance. Yeah, right there. Wouldn't it be better to put several of them over on the other side on the walk so they don't have to cross in front of traffic?
Yeah, I think the architect looked at that and didn't like the distance that those spots were away from the front door, but I can have them look at that again.
Because the thing of it is, it's just off the sidewalk and it'd be better, I think, than crossing in front of traffic.
We have some challenges with the grade in that corner to make the transition from the finished
Okay.
floor.
Right.
So I think it might exceed the requirements for a level handicap spot. But we can definitely look into that.
Okay. And as far as going back to the electric vehicle charging stations, I think you should have them on each 3 sides of the building. I mean, a main, real heavy duty infrastructure, because, the time's coming when majority of cars are going to be electric. Especially probably a lot of the parking for employees might be on the south side of the building.
Yeah, we anticipate, and I've already instructed, our, Bill and our engineering firm to start, look at, we're getting proposals on the best and most effective design, the most universal type of equipment to use. So we plan on at least doubling, maybe tripling what we originally had on our application as suggested by the town engineer.
When I say it should be heavy duty infrastructure, because so they can be expanded.
Yeah, so you're saying size the service going to those charging stations in case you need to add on in the future. Yes, sir.
Oh, you will
Right.
have to
Yep.
add on in the future.
Yep.
Okay, I'm done.
Okay, Lou, comments, questions?
Oh, looks like everything's been covered pretty much. The one thing I like, again, I agree with Craig. You ought to take a look again at maybe the parking and see if you can, and you said that you would, see if you can bank some of it. That whole area over there is just, it's got an abundance of parking and they're never filled. And I know this is a different type of business, but again, take a look at it. I don't see any harm in banking something, and then if you realize that you need it, to just open it up. To Chip's point about the handicap, instead of having them all in a row, can you have them like 3 on one side, 3 on the other, however it's broke up there?
Yeah, we'll take a look at that.
You know what I'm saying? Instead of putting them alongside the building, leave them where they are, only bring some of them up so they're facing each other. Am I making myself clear? Like,
Yeah,
yeah.
You're saying,
Bring it, there you go. Yeah, bring it there. Yes,
Yeah.
like that. And
Yeah,
that brings them closer to the front, and it's either way you're going to be going across.
yeah,
correct.
but there will be a considerable amount of busy pedestrian traffic and vehicle traffic, obviously, at that first floor entry and canopy, even though we do provide sidewalks to get around the building and out into the parking field. Everybody's just going to take the quickest path, if you will, and cut across there. But we'll take a look at the locations of those handicap spots again.
I look at the 7-Eleven building, and they've got it constructed similarly where it's along down the side, and actually it's easier to park across from the doorway and then walk across. It's closer, and if you're in a wheelchair, if you're hurt and you need on a cane or crutches, it's a lot easier to walk across than it is to walk the length of the sidewalk.
Yep.
While we're still on the subject of handicap spots, if you eliminated the entrance for urgent care, then why don't you move some of those up to where I suggested before, up on the east side, on the other side of the main entrance?
Well, when we say we eliminated the entrance for the urgent care, we are not going to have a drop-off or a drop-off canopy. They're very, we plan on having probably an existing door, an exterior door at that location
Okay.
to access that part of the building. Again, once I know who the tenants are and once we start getting into the interior design and the programming, I definitely see that as some type of secondary entrance exit to that side of the building. So, I mean, for now, I would say that's our best guess and our best design going forward.
Okay.
And another thing to piggyback on what Paul said, with the snow removal, if you could bank some of that parking, that would be a spot where you could put the snow instead of having to truck it out. And if you ever had to open them up for parking, well, then you have to revert to trucking the snow out. That's it. Thank you.
Susan?
So at this point, do you know who the tenants are?
We, do- I mean, I have a very good idea, but I cannot make a public announcement yet because obviously I don't have a signed agreement. But we are working with, medical users and an office user currently right now. We're
So
in
you have-
discussions.
And the reason I asked is then you would have a better idea of the parking needs based on.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. Right now it's, right now we're doing it based on, the operation of other properties that we have based on the use. So once we firm up who's going in there and what's actually going to happen, we can take a lot more accurate look at the parking requirement.
That's my only question or comment.
Okay, Chief Hyder?
Yeah, I don't want to belabor the points, but as to the parking, I think you have to look at the use of 7-Eleven and 713 Troy Road, that many times you have to drive around that parking lot to look for a parking space. And it's a comparable sized building or set of buildings and the comparable number of parking spaces. So as much as I love bank parking, you may have to think twice about that. But if you do think about bank parking, I know everybody's probably looking at that south area to use with snow. I would like you to bank the top area, the north side, because I think there's a lot of blacktop facing Auto Park Drive. And I get the location. It's a beautiful building. It's the right place for it. But if you were to bank anything, I'd bank that whole front parking that borders Auto Park Drive, which I'm sure nobody's going to want to bank, but that would be my suggestion. Landscape wise, I think the flyover was great as long as that's what gets planted. And I think that should be put in the minutes because I think it would look very, very extensive and very nice. This number 4 Auto Park bothers me. If you drive past that building, the address on the building is 950 New Loudon Road. It's not 4 Auto Park. And there's an entrance from 950 through the parking lot, through the snowbanks. They're using that to get back to this building now, as well as this easement going out to Auto Park Drive. There's already a building on it, a very old warehouse, a pretty big warehouse as it is. And I'm just, is this owned by the same people? Was this ever a part of this property? I'm just curious as to that because I don't like the idea of making this a standalone with no egress. I just could see problems in the future because I'm just curious as what this building's used for now.
Yeah, currently right now, the owner of the property of both all of 4 and 6 wants to retain that parcel. So this would not be part of what I'm saying is our project, which is the application in front of you. We are trying to come up with a way to carve that parcel out and a design solution. And that's why we have this discussion over the lot that we want to create or leave, if you will. We're trying to do our best to work out a way where, I think that we've done the best job that we can do so far without getting into a shared driveway, which would be an easement situation and definitely make the ODA required. We gave the frontage and the property, and we're trying to size the lot properly so it has green space and parking to support that square footage. But in my thought process was once we left it this way, if the applicant or owner of that property ever wants to do anything, they're going to have to come back to the planning board with their proposal, and they're going to have to meet the green space requirements, and the board might make them put in the access road out to Auto Park. I mean, that's, depending on the use and who it is and what they put back there, that was the future of it. So we thought that providing that 50-foot, whatever strip up the east side of our property and the 100-foot access, almost trying to create a flag lot was our best attempt to try to keep that parcel as independent as possible the way it is right now, without sharing a ingress egress with it.
Right. Well, I think that precludes, just what you're saying, what Chuck said before, you're not going to get into interconnectivity between this lot and any other lot. I think the Betty letter addressed that by offering Plaza Drive as interconnectivity with Century Drive, but it would probably through an easement because that's a private road. So the Betty letter did address that to a certain degree. My only other point is to really concur with Chip with the electronic thing, the electric cars. I got to tell you, folks, at first I thought that was just a fad, but I'm in my business. I'm in a lot of people's houses and garages, and I am seeing almost every year it's twice the amount of electrical cars than I saw the year before. And when I look at new houses being constructed now, more and more of them are being constructed with electric charging outlets in the garages. So I don't think even doubling it is going to work here. I think you really have to make sure you have substantial stations around all sides of that building. And that's it, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, thank you. I just have a couple questions. Can we turn to the shot that shows the green space? Most of it at where the stormwater management area is? Okay, we can do it with this one. There was a colored one. Maybe that was in one of the applicant. Is that all being counted towards green space? That's my question. And isn't that already the existing town basin? Or if somebody can explain that to me, I'd appreciate it.
No, this is Bill Mafrici. The town basin is on the northwest side of the property. The other three basins that you see are proposed. And yes, we are counting that as part of the 58% green.
Okay. And my other question had to do with electric too. And you may have answered it and Chief hit on it. And I guess Chip did. I was thinking about lot 4 when Chip was talking about it. For an education for us, we can all see the trend going in that direction. How do cutting edge developers view that issue and view that problem?
Well, the big discussion always is, and I've been working a lot with, Albany Medical Center and Saratoga Hospital and St. Peter's on their new facilities. Believe it or not, the question comes down to who pays for the power. And it's kind of, nobody wants to make a commitment or make that choice yet because they don't know how it will be perceived. So if I provide the power for free as the building owner, then who pays for it? Do the tenants pay for it? Or do you charge the person that's coming to plug in that day and make them pay for it? And how is that perceived, from a customer client basis? And then also, how long will those spots be tied up? Because you don't want the doctor in his big fancy Tesla to park there for the day, plug in, and he charges there every day and doesn't have a charger at home. That's really defeating the purpose of trying to provide convenience to the clients and the customers coming to the building. So, you can enter, they have these programs where these companies will put the infrastructure in of these chargers, but they want to charge. So you got to go in and swipe. So they're like little private gas stations, if you will. They'll come in, they'll put the equipment in, but you want to use it, you got to swipe the credit card and you have to pay. And they can put limits on it so people can only park there for an hour and they have to move to get an hour charge, 2-hour charge. But, everybody sees the need. It's just that, how do they want to present it to the public and their clientele and basically who's going to pay for it?
Okay, thank you. And what are we doing on this site in terms of conduits? I might have missed that part of the presentation.
Well, we plan on adding, we originally proposed 2, and then Chuck gave us some comments in his letter and his review to add more. Currently, right now, we are working with the civil engineer to add more charging stations in several different locations of the building.
Don't you think you're going to say in 20 years or 10 or 15? Darn, I wish we, at least provided a conduit or something.
Yeah, we'll try to, when we engineer the electrical service and we start running conduits and powers to these stations, think of it as like payphones. If you have a bank of 2 and they're used all the time, you add 2 more another, so we can add on to it. But I guess the question is, where's the trend going to end and stop? Because, are there going to be power charging stations at every building? It's like,
Right, right. It's a constantly.
You know,
changing.
it's
Okay.
constantly changing.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Peter,
Yes, yes, Paul.
just got a question either for Bill or for Chuck. We sort of went by quickly those evergreens that are along the boundary with the Northway, and I never heard exactly what was going to happen with those, if anything was going to happen with those. Can someone enlighten me?
Yeah, I can respond to that. It's kind of tough to see, but we do show a grading or a edge of woods, what's represented on the site plan. You know, the squiggly line. At some point, we need to remove a portion of them because they're going to be impacted by the grading of our SWIP basin. But the majority of those, right, that's exactly where it is. So the southerly portion of it will be impacted. We think the northerly portion, we can retain a majority of those trees. We can identify on subsequent submissions the actual trees that were going to be removed, but there are going to be trees on that southerly portion that we can't fit.
Okay,
Paul,
well,
if
I would like to see them in the minutes on your final submission, how many, and if you could have someone go out at some point when the snow is gone and mark those. I have a feeling that the CAC is going to want to go out and take a quick look at that at some point again. But that would be fine. Thank you.
And Paul, this is Chuck, just to kind of further add, the most important screening trees are the ones that Bill was referring to along the northern edge. We specifically went out along, both the north and southbound lanes and took a look at the site and then came down the slip ramp as well. And because of the grade changes, where the southern trees are proposed to, some of them be removed, you really don't see the site hardly at all through there. When you progress, further to the north down the slip ramp and up, the 87 northbound lane, that's really where some of those larger evergreens are stacked up that are really a little bit more important and provide more screening. So as long as Bill really, kind of stays away from those, we're not too concerned with the ones on the south side, just because of the grade and the slope change. So
Okay, I just want to see them marked. I want to see it on the plan. I don't want to go back there in a couple of years and see them all gone. I've done this a couple of times and I don't want to get burned again. Thank you.
Okay, anything else from the board?
Yeah, Peter, one other question. There was some conversation about sidewalks. Can somebody go over what's being proposed for sidewalks and where we are with sidewalks along here?
Both internally or externally or both?
Along Auto Park.
Yeah, okay.
Are there
Chuck,
sidewalks now on the north side of Auto Park?
So where Plaza Drive and Auto Park was just developed, I think it's 15 Plaza Drive. It's First Columbia's development.
Right.
They built sidewalks along Auto Park Drive and stopped it at their property line. The idea that Chuck and I had were to, instead of having it along the front of 4 and 6, is do a connection point from the existing sidewalk that Chris Betty and First Columbia developed and bring it to Route 9.
Okay.
So
Perfect.
you have a full connection, a full walkability from Route 9 down to the site. And then
Okay.
there'll be interconnectivity to 4 and 6.
Okay, thank you.
But Zach, would you be walking across Auto Park
You
and
would-
then walking, instead of the sidewalk, walking into a driveway where cars are coming in and out?
We're going to have to have
Yeah.
connectivity. Yep.
So is there going to be a sidewalk somewhere there for people to walk once they
There would
cross
have
over
to be,
Auto
Paul.
Park?
yeah, they'd have to modify that internal first driveway
Correct.
to put some sort of crosswalk there and, sidewalks along the side.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions or comments from the board?
Yeah, the usual amenities, I see nothing for picnic tables or anything like that.
We do have some benches and site amenities in that center island circle.
Okay, all right.
And then Bill, also down on the southern side of the building, you'll see a large green space from that one entry heading toward the east. That'll all be seating area as well.
Okay,
Okay, any other comments or questions from the board? Okay, so we have to move, we have an application for concept approval here. I want to set the stage and make sure everybody, we have a consensus on how we're going to move forward. I think the board is reasonably pleased with the concept, and I think it's in a position to take a vote on that. But I also think there's a lot of open issues, and this is a type 1 action. So does that mean there's an EIS involved, or what am I trying to say? An environmental,
No, Peter, at this point, an EIS wouldn't necessarily be required, but they have to
Okay.
submit a full environmental assessment form.
okay. Are we doing more traffic analysis or no?
Yeah, that was something that was raised, and I think we're going to ask the applicants to give us they're going to have to give us a traffic assessment and report anyways. So we'll take a look at that, and if we need more information based on what they submit, we can always ask for that.
Okay, I'm headed in the direction of, even if we vote on concept and it's approved, we should come back for an update before final, because there's a lot of outstanding issues. Is the board in agreement on that?
Yes.
yeah,
Yeah. Okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, I got silence there for a minute. Okay. So we have before us, do we have a motion for concept acceptance?
I'll make the motion.
I'll second it.
Okay, did you get that, Sean?
I
Okay,
got that. It was Lou and Chip, right?
Yep.
okay. Any discussion? Okay, with the proviso that we'll come back for an update and we'll review the traffic as well. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. For the record, I'll say that the yes vote was unanimous. Not hearing any disagreement. That's what will be in the record. Okay, thank you. We look forward to seeing you next time.
Thank you very much.
Okay,
Right, thank you.
next item on the agenda, 80 Dunsback Ferry Road, Dunsback subdivision, concept plan review of a proposed conservation subdivision on 9.65 acres, creating 11 residential lots served by a cul-de-sac and one conservation area of 3.56 acres. This site is zoned SFR, which is single family residential, and we'll turn this over to the department for introductory comments.
Thank you, Pete. This is a proposed conservation subdivision. We received the concept in September, circulated that for town and TDE reviews. Monique Waba is the planner leading this project. Monique?
Yes, the planning board last saw this in April. At that time, you made a number of comments about pulling the homes, the proposed lots away from existing residences and from I-87. Albany County also submitted comments, which are in your packets. The significant issue appeared to be the conservation analysis. So we asked the applicant to look at that again before this review before the board. And Nick Costa's here representing the applicant.
Okay, we'll turn it over to Nick. Nick, welcome back, by the way, and
Thank you, Peter. It's
You
good
have
to be
the-
back.
yes. You have the floor.
Yes, I think it's Sean. Sean, would I be able to share the screen, because I do have a couple of color renderings to share with the board?
Yep, sure thing. 1 second. There you go, Nick.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so I'm going to bring up what we started with, which was the conventional layout. So this was the conventional layout that, the board hasn't seen this for a while. So I wanted to refresh everybody's, mind of how we started with this. So the parcel is 9.65 acres. It has frontage along Dunsback Road. If you can see my cursor, and then
Nick.
it heads. Do you see it?
No.
We're seeing your email. We're seeing your email box.
Oh,
You're way ahead of us.
let me try that. Is that better?
There we go.
Okay.
Much better. Nick.
Yeah. Sorry about that. Let me go back, and since you're seeing it for the first time, you saw it the first time back in April, but this is the conventional layout that we had come up and we initially shared with the board, and then the board asked us to try to do a conservation subdivision. So, but as I was starting to say, the parcel is 9.65 acres. It does have frontage along Dunsback Ferry Road, along where my pointer is, even though there's a yellow label box that comes up. And then it comes back and it goes, and this is the area where it's parallel to the I-87, the Northway corridor. This is the boundary of the Northway road. So this was the original layout. Let me bring up the conservation subdivision that we had done. This are you able to see this now?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, so this was the conservation subdivision that we presented to the board. And as you can see, we had a road coming in, obviously, to connect to Dunsback Ferry Road. And then we had these two cul-de-sacs. One cul-de-sac terminated here, and then you can see the label for 87. And then another cul-de-sac that is located right here. And we had a couple of keyhole lots. These were keyhole lots. And again, the board commented that they were not really in favor of having these homes so close to the Northway. And I just want to bring up one thing that I want everybody to understand is that right here there's a large berm. That when you drive by the Northway, that berm really precludes you from seeing the parcel, because it's a substantial berm, and it also is very developed with some mature trees that there are on the side slopes, on the top of the slope, and also on the other side of the slope of that berm. So there is a berm that goes along here, and then the berm continues to the north. It gets a little bit smaller, but then it increases in size again. So what we recently submitted, excuse me, I get it. There we go. This is the redesign that we did, the new concept that we did, where we're still coming in obviously from our access point from Dunsback Ferry Road, and then we took away the cul-de-sac that was here that had all the homes fairly close to 87. And then we extended the road and created a cul-de-sac here so that we eliminated the keyhole lots, which, the board was not in favor of the keyhole lots. And not only that, the fire services wanted a road, to be built to access those keyholes. That was bigger, almost bigger than the town road that we have designed here. So that's the modification that was done. along with the modification, I just want to, bring to note that there is a solid 6 foot high fence that separates the site or gives the site privacy, from these lots, or it gives privacy to those lots, from this parcel. It's a white fence. It's over the entire rear of these homes. This is where we're, the change, the revised concept. The revised concept also reduces the number of lots from 12, which was, was shown on the previous concept submittal, and it reduces them to 11 lots. We've also done a section through one of the lots to show, how the roadway system and the home would be comparable to the berm that's back here, and also shows the northway. So this is the northway in that section, and then there's the berm, and this would be the home, and the roadway would be out here. And that's really a lot number. I believe it's this lot right here, which is lot number 9, and the address is 16. It would be 16. That's this section right here. With regards to the conservation analysis, as Monique said, we calculated the conservation analysis, and we took into account the constrained lands, which is composed of the wetlands that exist on the site. There is a pond, and that pond, by the way, is totally fed by a very large storm pipe. I think it's either a 30-inch or a 24-inch pipe that drains the entirety of Dunsback Ferry Road. So the farmer, that owned this parcel, gave an easement to the town when the storm system was installed on Dunsback Ferry Road for the stormwater to be dumped into that pond. And and I don't know, maybe the farmer used that water to irrigate the fields, back here. But it is a substantial amount of stormwater that goes into here, and the rest of the time, this pond, when it's dry season, like we had this summer, the pond is reduced to very little amount of water. There is another line, another storm line that comes in from here that picks up the stormwater drainage from these areas. So the pond has a discharge out to this depression that is between the northway and the berm, and we believe that the water runs out towards the Mohawk, towards the north. So that's the wetlands that are on the site. And then we also on the site there are some steep slopes, which the conservation analysis require us to take that into account, and that accounts for about 3/4 of an acre for the steep slopes. So for constrained lands, there's a total of 1.79 acres. 1.0, a little more than an acre is wetlands, which is mostly the pond and the areas that are next to it. And then the total unconstrained lands is 7.86 acres. So we also have 0.38 acres of constrained lands that are going to be impacted. So when we added everything up, we came up with a required conservation lands of 5.31, which is 40% of the 7.86 acres, and then the 1.07 of the wetlands, and the the rest of the steep slopes, and it comes up to 5.31. We have reserved, or deed restricted this area right here, and this area, and some of this area, and we have come up with a total conservation space of unconstrained lands of 5.44 acres, which is a little more than the required conserved lands. So that's our analysis, and the presentation on the revised layout. I do have another. This is an aerial view of the original one, and I also have an aerial view of the new. Yes, here it is. This is the aerial view that shows the Northway, and also the neighboring properties, and also some of these neighboring properties and their proximity to the Northway. If there are any questions, I'd be happy to try to answer those from the board. I'll leave this up, because I know that Joe Grasso is going to be doing his review, or he's going to be reporting on his review of the revised layout. So I'll leave this up to if Joe needs to use it.
Okay, well, we'll turn it over to Joe Grasso. He's with CHA, and they are our town designated engineer. Joe, can you give us your comments?
Sure, thanks, Pete. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Yeah, so we had issued a letter on this revised concept plan dated November 2nd. That's been provided to all the planning board members. There has been a resubmission of a plan that added a couple other elements, the most important of which was a revised conservation analysis. And I'll talk to that first. We have gone through the calculations, and there's two important parts to the conservation analysis. The first is the maximum allowable density when you take into consideration the constrained lands. And the maximum allowable density of this property is 16 lots. And as Nick had mentioned, only 11 lots are proposed. So it's less than the maximum allowable density. And then when you go through and calculate the required amount of open space, including 40% of the unconstrained lands, all of the constrained lands from a acreage standpoint, and then also taking in the penalty, I'll call it, when you impact constrained lands, you have to provide 2 times the amount that you're impacting as additional open space. So Nick's calculations are right, that 5.31 acres of the project site would be required as open space, and they are providing 5.44. So, mathematically, the project, satisfies the mathematical requirements, but our letter does touch on a number of concerns that have been brought up throughout the review of this project site. And those concerns have not been, addressed on the latest plan, and I'll go through what those concerns have been. Our first bullet under comment number 2 was pulling the residential lots from the adjacent residential homes along Dunsback Ferry Road. That is no longer reflected on this plan. We've got a proposed berm and landscaping strip that's about 25 feet wide. It's really not of sufficient width to do any appreciable berming and landscaping, and there is an adequate backyard area on those lots. It looks to be lots 10 and 11 that would not have adequate backyard on those lots, and would be in close proximity to those homes along Dunsback Ferry Road. So we would recommend that those lots and home sites get pulled away. And if homes are going to be proposed where they're going to be, within, say, 100 feet of the property line, we do think that it may warrant, additional berming and landscaping to help screen those views. So that was one concern that we had with the plan. We had also raised concerns, and the board had concerns about the impacts of the homes along the Northway corridor from both a visual and noise impact standpoint. Nick did a good job discussing this issue, and there is a thin berm there along the Northway. He has provided a cross section on his latest plan through Lot 8, which is where the berm is at its highest, and that does provide some significant screening, both from visual and noise. But it's unclear that that entire berm is encapsulated within the proposed conservation area. And if you look at the home site on Lot 8, it's basically right at the toe of the berm. So by the time you provide any kind of reasonable backyard to that home, it looks like you're going to be into that berm, into the grading of it, as well as the vegetation, that Nick pointed out as being significant along the top of the berm. So I think it's been said multiple times that the integrity of that berm in its entirety and the integrity of the vegetation that exists along it are really critical to help buffer the visual and noise impacts of the Northway. Our third bullet was regarding the existing berm. The fourth bullet was regarding the removal of the vegetation of the Northway. The other bullet that we had commented was about the open spaces being all in one contiguous parcel. And really this comment really starts to become addressed when you look at the overall layout of the lots. Nick, as he's shown, proposes a significant amount of open space on the lot, and I think he's tried to make the open space areas as contiguous as possible, and I think he's done a good job of that. But I think trying to address those other comments that I brought up are going to likely result in a reconfiguration of these lots. So I think it's just important for the board to keep in mind that as the lots get reconfigured and these other issues get addressed, that we always want to go back and make sure that we're looking at large contiguous amounts of open space. The current proposal is that the open space would be located just within a couple of lots, which is acceptable to us, and they would be covered by deed restrictions. So we're not talking about open space areas that would be conveyed to another land conservation organization or the town, so it would just be deed restricted. And that's something that the planning board may always want to comment on about the desirability of that. Our next bullet was regarding the noise impacts of the Northway corridor. The planning board had recommended that a noise analysis be done to understand the noise levels at the proposed lot locations. That hasn't been done, and I don't know if it's on the applicant's intent to do that, but we haven't been provided a copy of a noise study. And it may, what we expect is that there's going to be significant Northway noise on these proposed home sites. Whether or not it makes these lots undevelopable, I think that's something that we can only start to understand when we get some metrics regarding the noise and compare it to other types of environments from a noise standpoint. So nothing more to report there. Our next comment in the letter was regarding the calculation of the required amount of conserved lands, and our comment had been addressed through Nick's resubmission with a very accurate calculation of the conservation analysis. The next comment in our letter, number 4, was the conservation analysis depicting the constrained areas of the site. And Nick has done that in his resubmission and has identified those areas. I would say that, and you can see it on this plan, that there's a large area behind lots, I guess 1 through 7 that are within a open space area. If there's a reconfiguration of the lots, I think that's an area that is not constrained, other than a very thin strip of berm and wooded area along the northway. So if there's a reconfiguration of the lots, that may be an area that would be worthy of possibly some additional development activities. We had also commented in our letter about the use of the existing pond as a stormwater management area. Obviously, this is only concept, so there's not a lot of detail there. And Nick did a good job describing how the drainage flows into the pond. And there would be provisions that an outlet from the pond and a likely separate stormwater management area to treat the road runoff would have to continue to discharge to the Northway corridor as it does. It's our understanding that those pipes there that currently outlet from the pond are significantly undersized and would need to be increased in size and hydraulic capacity and located within a town easement, so that the town would have to take maintenance responsibilities over there to protect the road drainage system. We had commented in our letter about the wetland impacts, and Nick has quantified that, but it does raise concern over the level of wetland impacts that are proposed. The site has a little bit over 1 acre of wetlands on it, including a lot of open water area, and they're looking to impact 0.38 acres. So about 35% of the wetlands would be impacted, which these are Corps of Engineers regulated wetlands. There's no wetland buffer. But generally, anytime you get into impacts over 1/10 of an acre, you're looking at mitigation, either on-site or off-site, which involves, creating wetlands so that there's no net loss. So, given, the road extension through the wetlands and the development of Lot 11, that's where the most of the wetland impacts are occurring, and that's something that we've raised concern with. Monique, in her introductory comments, she had mentioned that we did get comments from Albany County Planning Board, and it's not always that they get into detail regarding subdivision applications, but I did want to just raise some awareness to 2 comments that they did bring up. One was they said the large amount of wetland disturbance shown in the site plans, justification should be made as to why the disturbance are necessary for the project. And then in their last comment, they said, and this is regarding the noise impacts, it says DOT is only mandated to fund noise abatement if there is construction of a highway on a new location, or if there is physical alteration of an existing highway. In the developer's narrative, there is mention of keeping the vegetation behind parcel 8 and 9. The town may want to consider analyzing the noise impact of clearing out any vegetation that is adjacent to I-87 and making approval contingent on further noise mitigation strategies if necessary. The developer should clarify if the existing berm, will be impacted. So those were 2 comments that I just wanted to raise to the board's attention. The other thing I wanted to mention is, they are calling out on the plans that all of the lots would be single-story homes. So, that's kind of in keeping with the conservation density lot size reduction that we're seeing on the plans, and obviously can reduce the visual impacts on the adjacent, on either adjacent properties or as well from the Northway. So that is a desirable feature on the plan, but I did want to bring it to the board's attention. It is something that would need to be, restricted somehow in the deeds of all the lots, in order for that to be enforceable, by the town and the building department, to make sure nobody ever was able to, increase the homes to 2-story, because as proposed, that would become a likely condition of the subdivision plan approval. So. So that's it, Pete. Sean had provided us a copy of a letter from a residential neighbor, I believe, but I can wait and I can either go through those things now. There's a number of items raised in the letter.
Let's get the letter. Let's get the letter in the record. Either the main points or read the whole letter. I couldn't download it, so I'm not sure how long the letter is, but we usually show deference to the residential neighbors, at least during these Zoom calls. We have been reading the whole thing in.
Well, Peter, if I could, the author of that email is here. If he wants to provide his comments directly, would the board entertain that?
Sure.
Mr. Ferris, did you want to provide your comments directly to the board? I'm going to ask you to unmute.
Thank you for the opportunity to participate this evening. I'm thoroughly excited about having the opportunity to voice some of the items that I've identified looking over the plans. My first question is in regards to wetlands. There was a lot of discussion. It's not clear to me through the applications of the documents that were supplied on the website that the United States Army Corps of Engineers has looked at the impacts to the wetlands. I'm not sure if they're to regulate the wetlands or there's some New York State DEC involvement with regards to wetlands. One of the other things I noticed is when the applicant—
you can get all your comments out. We'll address them. Go ahead.
Okay. The other comment is when I was looking through the building permit, the application says no for impacts to floodplain and wetlands. That seemed contrary to the drawing. One of the other things I did not document on the drawing is the way the road is laid out. It appears that when the snow is plowed, a majority of salt will be going into the wetlands, which could be an impact negatively environmentally. In addition, this project will be north of another project that's with the planning board currently. The Cicero property is being developed as well. So I think you're going to see a substantial amount of stormwater from these two projects impacted together, which kind of gets me to the next item. Will all stormwater be discharged to the west towards the northway? Will the roof drains from the project be discharged to the west as well? You did a good job of describing the Conservation Development Act and the requirements of meeting the acreage. Was not clear that you met, to me at least, although I'm not an expert, of the intent of that regulation. With regards, there wasn't a lot of discussion, but with regards to the proposed berm and landscaping adjacent to the homes of my home, the Ferris household, as well as the Horton household, a few questions. There really isn't a cross section to determine how high that berm would be, similar to what's on the drawing for lot number 8. Wondering if we could see a cross section from lots 10 and 11. We'd like to know the width, the height of the berm. We'd like to see at least a minimum of 10 feet for the berm. Will the berm have a swale on each side to direct the stormwater to the west into the project? What type of vegetation will be used on the berm? And who will be responsible for the upkeep care of the berm? I think it was identified just recently. The drawings indicate single-story dwellings. We want to ensure that that's documented. Elevations of all lots, it's not clear whether the dwellings of the project will be below or at the existing level of the properties on Dunsbach Ferry. We do have a question of what the price ranges of the homes will be. Deed restrictions. Will the conservation area, proposed berm landscaping be put into the deeds for the homes for 10 and lots 10 and 11 to provide maintenance, upkeep, and prevent removal? Will the existing wooded area in the berm running adjacent to I-87 be put into the lots to prevent removal and modification? We'd also like to see if there's a recent noise study that's available for public review. I think that was also a comment tonight. And then lastly, developments and projects in the local area. I think tonight, when this meeting started, we talked about the 4 and 6 Auto Park Drive. Again, we have multiple residential development on Dunsbach, Pollock, and now Sparrowbush. So I'm questioning whether we've taken an inclusive review of the traffic studies of all these projects. In particular, I can relate to Dunsbach Ferry. Right now, when you exit Dunsbach Ferry on the south end, it's very difficult to get out of the road when people try to turn left onto Route 9. That's only going to be exacerbated by the number of new vehicles traveling this area. So my question is, at one point, I don't know if it was the town's comprehensive plan or the BOT GIS study about traffic. Is there any updates to that? What's, what are we going to see as regards to, the holistic picture of expansion and development in a localized area here?
Okay, you raised a lot of issues. I took notes. I assume Joe Grasso took notes. Joe, how would you suggest we go through that? Or Sean too, please chime in.
Yeah, I think I've got them on my phone. I was able to call up the letter, so I can quickly go through them. I think that may be the best way. And then, but obviously, I always like to give the applicant's consultant a chance to respond. Nick, I assume that you have not seen the letter.
No, I haven't, Joe. You're
Okay,
correct.
so I'm going to go through them. In terms of the question, the wetlands are marked on the drawings.
Yes.
We talked about that. And the application said that there were no floodplains or wetlands. I assume that was because the application was filled out earlier than the plan was evolved and was just an error.
Yeah, that's true, Joe. The wetlands have been delineated. A delineation report was sent to the Corps of Engineers. As you know, the Corps of Engineers last year didn't start doing any site visits until after October, and it was a very short window, where they made some site visits, but they didn't get to a lot of sites, and this was one of the sites that they didn't get to. But we're hoping that as soon as the schedule permits it, and they open up the scheduling and field visits, this will be one of the first sites they see this spring. Joe, they stopped doing site visits. Usually they stop doing site visits in November. This year they did visits through November because that was the only time they were doing site visits. The rest of the year they were busy with responding to COVID related issues. But we did send the consultant that did the delineation did send in the report, and the mitigation that we were looking into is the banking of the banking, paying the fee for the banking of the wetlands. So the consultant also had discussions with the banking, the people that run the banking of the wetlands mitigation. So.
Okay, so there would be a fee paid to mitigate for the wetland impact.
That's correct. That's the way we were looking at it, when it was discussed with the Corps of Engineers and also with the banking, the wetland banking.
Okay. I'm just going to keep going through the questions and the comments. Stormwater, there's a question regarding how would stormwater be handled and discharged. And yeah, that's the stormwater from the road and the lots would be directed to a stormwater management area,
Yes.
then into the pond and then across the road and between lots, I guess addresses 14 and maybe 18 on the plan and directed to the northway.
Yeah, this is the area where it discharges currently, Joe. These are the pipes that go out there. As you mentioned, thank you. As you mentioned, those pipes are way undersized. I think they're 2 8-inch or 2 6-inch pipes. We would have to, do an upgrade to those pipes. And also, since we're delineating it, this is the area that we plan on bringing our stormwater and doing the treatment that's required for new development. So this would be the area that we would turn into some type of a practice that allows us to take and be in compliance with the stormwater design manual.
Okay, there was a comment about the consistency of the conservation development plan with the conservation development design guidelines. I think the planning board is well versed on those requirements and
yes,
and can decide whether or not the plan meets the intent of that. I don't think this is we need to debate that during going through the public comments. There was a question about the cross section through lots 10 and 11. Nick hasn't provided one. That's something that the planning board may want to see if lots continue to be proposed in close proximity. There's a question about the width and the height of the berm and a recommendation for 10 feet. I think the strip that Nick is looking to deed restrict there is about 25 feet wide.
Right.
And I would think, you'd probably only be able to get a berm that's, maybe, 5 feet high within that strip. I think if the board, wanted to see a berm of a height of about 10 feet high, you would really need about, 50 to 60 feet to accommodate the grading. And obviously you got to address the drainage on both sides of the berm so that we're not blocking drainage.
Yeah, and as I mentioned before, there's a solid fence that's along that entire property line that is 6 foot high. So the berm, if you can visualize it, the berm would be 4 foot higher if it was to be a 10 foot high berm.
Yep. Yeah, and then there was a question about the vegetation, and typically if applicants are required to provide a berm, they typically are required to landscape it, and the landscaping and the maintenance thereof is normally included within a deed restricted area, and it is the responsibility of the landowner to maintain the landscaping.
That's correct.
There was a comment about the single story dwellings, and I commented that in our comments. The price range, Nick, I didn't know if you wanted to share any information regarding the price range.
Jim Kerr is on this, is also participating. He's representing the applicant. I'm not sure what the price range is, but it would be in, I would guess it would be in the $400,000 range, Joe. But that's a guess. Jim, if you know something that's a little bit more concrete, please share that with us.
No, Nick, you're right on target. These are going to be, typical Marini homes. They're going to range between $350,000 and $450,000, especially for that area.
Okay. Well, thanks, Jim.
So there was a question regarding the deed restricted areas and how those would be protected. And it's the typical way that these areas deemed worthy of protection, whether or not it's a new berm or existing berm or existing or proposed landscaping, is to do it through deed restrictions. And that prevents their removal. There's a question regarding the existing wooded area and berm along the northway, and we raised that those concerns in our previous comments. So that's up for the board's consideration. There's a question about the noise study, and as I mentioned, we are not aware of one being done yet. Nick, did you want to respond to that question?
Sure, Joe. Yeah, we have asked 3 different consultants that do noise studies for proposals to do the noise study. The applicant is willing to do the noise study. It's just something that at this juncture we haven't, believe it or not, we have not received a response from any of the 3 outfits that we requested the noise study from. But we'll be asking again to the same folks. There isn't a lot of people that do the noise studies. Or Joe, if you know of anybody, please share that with me. Send me an email. But the 3 outfits, and I don't know if it was because it was done, during the end of the season and they were busy, finishing up other projects. But we didn't have any luck with any of those 3, and I'm afraid that I have to ask them again to send us a proposal for doing the noise studies. But the applicant is on board to to do the noise study and get the answer with regards to what the noise levels are in the various locations where there would be lots on the site.
Okay, thanks, Nick. And no, I do not have any noise consultants. I don't know of any, so I can't recommend any.
Yeah, well, that's why I was asking, Joe, because they're not easy to find.
No, they are not. Yeah. And then the last comments were regarding the multiple developments occurring in this area of the town.
Yeah,
and whether or not.
Yeah, Joe, sorry to cut you short on the fortunately, we're also dealing with the serial development. And I can tell you that the way our stormwater design is currently done for that site, we're going to be substantially reducing the amount of stormwater that's coming this way. We're actually, and we discussed this with John DeZilo and made site visits. We're going to be sending our stormwater down Pollock Road, where there is properly sized culverts and that get it into the creek that crosses Pollock Road under the Northway, which it has the capacity to take the water where this pond and these small pipes really were always undersized, and the pipe that connects from the serial property to this discharge point is a 12-inch. It's a 12-inch HDPE pipe. So we couldn't direct our stormwater towards here. So we did a lot of field investigations, and we walked the areas with John, and we came up with a way to reduce the amount of water that's going to be contributed from the serial site. So that's the good news with regards to this site, is that the only thing that this site is really going to be receiving is the stormwater runoff that it receives from this from the town system, and also the remaining lands that are north of serial, which is a substantial reduction that if it, because it eliminates the majority of the stormwater that was previously, tributary to this pond, from the serial, Joe. So, obviously, we're doing on the serial site, we're doing, the detention that's required. We're doing the water quality that's required. But we are discharging down Pollock Road, which, like I said, there's a 24-inch culvert under the driveway, and a swale, and a pretty sizable swale, that can take the discharge from that project.
Okay, thanks, Nick. And then lastly, the last comment was, talked about the cumulative impacts of development on traffic in the area. And although I think I've said during previous meetings that the development of 11 home sites on Dunsbach Road is not expected to result in significant impacts in and of itself. It will obviously add to traffic congestion in the area. A large number of these trips are going to head out on Dunsbach and go down to the Route 9 corridor. The intersection of Dunsbach Ferry Road and Route 9 was one of the intersections that was identified in the Bout Road generic environmental impact statement, and that traffic study was updated a number of years ago. That intersection was not identified specifically for any turn lanes or signalization, but it was identified as a intersection that did require monitoring and further study as development continues to occur. And that's something that the town's Department of Public Works takes the lead on. And as as we continue the review of this project, we'd be more than happy to reach out to the town's DPW and see if there are any updates regarding identification of need for traffic improvements at that intersection. But it is our understanding that as development continues to occur within the Bout Road GIS study area, that traffic improvements are getting done, to try to keep up with the pace of development. So,
right.
All right, Pete, that goes through the comments that we saw from that letter from an adjacent property owner.
Okay, Sean, did you have comments? I know the departments reviewed this as well. I don't know if we have Sean here.
No, it was my project. I don't have any extra other comments.
Pete, as so from my position and seeing, as the director and seeing, all the projects that are going on and some of the enforcement issues, there are a couple of concerns that I have on behalf of the department, moving forward. One of these is this trend that we've been seeing, which is where we've got these conservation areas that create these limits of grading and clearing on the backside of the lots. And so I've highlighted that in red. One of the concerns that we have here, and I think we raised it, more recently with Nick Uvan's property, is from a management perspective. We try to achieve the goals of the conservation subdivision with these, and I want to say almost, and in some ways artificially, by putting these limits of grading and clearing that, that at the end of the day, this department has the responsibility for managing and enforcing, which I'll, say that with the project load that happens in this town, it's difficult to do that. So we certainly prefer not to get into that area of having to manage those. What it does is it creates, it adds to the conservation calculation, but it doesn't improve the overall quality of the conservation areas. That being said, this contributes to, some added development acreage on the site. And I think what then becomes problematic is that we're also crossing through this wetland area that we'd like to somewhat avoid. Given some of these items together, it almost suggests to me that I think we have too many homes proposed on the site here. I always say that, from a land use law perspective, how we have minimums and dimensional requirements assumes the perfect piece of property that's unconstrained, unimpacted. And we don't have that here in town. That piece of property does not exist. So, while there's the potential to develop this to its maximum, in reality, I think that's why the planning board is here in its role is to look at these bigger issues. And this is one of them. I think that if we're really going to pursue a conservation approach here, we've got to take a look at how we're achieving that and where we're achieving that. And I don't think that doing that through deed restrictions, through limits of grading and clearing on property is a very effective means to do it. And we saw the enforcement of that about a year ago now, where a project exceeded the limits of grading and clearing. And again, I'm not necessarily one who's excited about fees to the Army Corps if we can avoid impacting the wetlands just generally. But I think other than that, Joe covered a lot of the other concerns that I had from a management perspective.
Okay, those are good, thoughtful comments. I appreciate it. We'll take comments and questions from the board, and we'll go in reverse order. Chief Hyder?
It's an engineer's nightmare when you look at this to a certain degree. I'd almost like to see the street stop at number 14, lot number 7, or see the 3 lots at the end of the street combined, not have lot 24 at all because of the wetland interference, and make lot number, whatever the numbers are, 20, 22, or 9 and 10, combine that to 1 lot, which would negate some of the problems with the neighbors to the north. It's a tough thing to develop, but I can't see it interfering with the wetlands for a house lot, to be honest with you. It's one thing to do it crossing a street across it, but I could see maybe combining those end 2 lots, and that would get them away from the neighbor's house a little bit. And as far as the proposed conservation area, I don't think we've made people do berms in the past. I mean, we look at Donna Drive, it's a 20-foot area, it's flat, it was level. It was, as far as putting a 10-foot berm up, I just don't think we've ever expected that of builders before.
Okay.
That's about it for me.
Okay, Susan?
Well, it's an improvement. I mean, all the problems have been identified. So there's not much more that I can add that hasn't already been said. My feeling about the noise is there's a certain amount that if a person is going to purchase this house, they're going to be aware that they're purchasing a home close to the northway. So I don't know at what point, it lies with either the seller or the purchaser to take the risks. But so those are my comments.
Okay, thank you. Lou?
I tend to agree with the chief. I just don't see where lot number 8 or 18 would be feasible. I mean, there's just no backyard. You're building right into the berm almost. I agree that probably get rid of also lot number 11, that would be 24, and combine 20 and 22, or lot 9 and 10. Sean, at one time I thought there was a certain length of road to go into a cul-de-sac by town law. Is there still that length?
Not off the top of my head, but I can look at that, Lou. I'll take a look quickly.
Yeah, Sean, I researched that. There is no. Go ahead, Chief.
I think in the fire code there is, without having a second egress point.
Yeah, there is a limit. There is a standard. I don't think it's in code now, but for some reason 600 feet sticks in my mind, or is it 800 feet?
That's what I thought, but I think you might be right, Chief. It's in the fire code thing more than anything
I think
else.
it has to do with the number of structures there.
Yeah, I think it's NFPA.
I think it's 10. It may be 10. I'm not positive.
But so I think maybe if you look at the length and the fire code, you may have to, if you do have a house at the end of the cul-de-sac, you probably want to see about putting sprinklers in it. that might be something to look at.
Okay. Thanks, Lou.
Thank you.
Good evening, Nick.
Good evening, Chip. How are you?
Good. Yeah, my biggest concern is you'd have to eliminate number 11 and combine the last two lots. And I think that's even that's stretching it.
Okay.
Craig?
Yeah, I mean, I'm generally in agreement with what everyone else has said. If the plan were to stay the way it is, Nick, how many trees, how much of the existing buffer along the Northway would get cut, if any?
That's a good question, Craig. And that grading limit line is something that we did from actual grading. We did grade. Normally, when we're in concept stages, we don't do grading, but in this case, we did the grading, and that line is what it hugs. In this area, for this lot to have a little bit of a rear yard, we wouldn't need to, let's say that rear yard is 25 feet, 25 to 30 feet, so they have a backyard. We wouldn't need to clear, some area, back here. Can you see my pointer, Craig?
Hey, I don't know who's controlling the screen, but could you just zoom in on lot 18? Because I think there's a lot of questions regarding the clearing and grading limit line, and I don't think it's very apparent, Nick.
Yes. Yep. Yeah, I think that we showed that we can do the grading within this line right here, Joe, but they wouldn't have a backyard, so that's why I'm saying is to give them a backyard, we would have to give them 25, 30 feet at the rear, so that limit of the limit of woods that's shown by that wavy line would move back, and and there would be some grading. There would be some filling in that area. Is the way the way I see it is that we would be filling in that lot, and raising it up. So to answer Craig's question is that from the rear of the structure it would be 25 to 30 feet back, and that's what we would clear. The berm would still be, would remain at the height that it is, because the top of the berm is right here. This is the top of the berm, which is elevation 336. And we would be, the home would actually be lower. If you look at the section that we drew, it actually, shows that, that section shows it, but it doesn't show, coming out 25 to 30 feet to have a backyard. But obviously, you'd have to give them a backyard, so.
Well, I mean, the reason I asked is, I think it's pretty clear from the comments that you've already gotten that the plan that you have now is not going to be moved forward. So you're going to probably need to do some revisions to it. So depending on what you revise or how you revise it, and whether, looking at what's there now,
yes,
there's not a ton of trees in most of the area that you were planning on putting houses anyway.
That's correct. That's correct.
So, and depending on how you revise it, in my opinion, that brings up the question of whether or not you need to do a noise study or not. Because if you're not cutting down any real trees that are already there, then I don't think you need to do a noise study. That's my personal opinion. You're actually going to improve the noise situation by building some houses.
That's correct.
But if you cut down an appreciable number of trees, then that changes.
Right.
And as I said, I agree with pretty much what everybody else has said. Some of these lots are going to have to be combined, and some others just disappear. That's it.
Yeah, Craig, again, I appreciate your comments, and like I said, just along that berm, this would be the only area where we would do the clearing. My guys, in the office, when they graded it, they put the limit of grading and clearing right here. but that was based on their grading. But, really, for this lot to be feasible, they would need to have, some clearing. But that's the only clearing that we're proposing. The rest of it would remain as it is. But, I have to go back, to the drawing board and make some revisions, as you mentioned. So, we'll see what we come up with. The way I see it right now, and I'm not certain that this is how it's going to work out, is the cul-de-sac is going to get pulled, towards the south, let's say generally towards the south. Lot 18, may become the area where the cul-de-sac is, the roadway, and then it would pull those 3 lots forward, and then we'll see how they are in comparison to the neighbors, with regards to buffer, and we'll see, what we have left, Craig. So, but we have to go back to the drawing board. But I appreciate you mentioning that the noise study may not be necessary, and the reason for that is it's been so difficult to get somebody to even give us a proposal to do that. And hopefully, we won't have to do it, because, what you're saying makes a lot of sense. There is a very good buffer, and we're not planning on clearing any of that. So, thank you.
Hey, Nick, this is Joe. It sounds like you're hearing and trying to respond to the planning board's comments regarding, the minimizing the impacts on the berm and the vegetation and the wetlands as well. You talked about pulling the cul-de-sac back. From my, cursory review, it looks like to avoid a large number of wetland impacts, you would need to pull the cul-de-sac back to the south side of the wetlands. Is that something that you've taken a look at, or would you take a look at?
Well, Joe, I think if you go back to our previous, and then we had some, keyhole lots that were coming back, and not having such a large impact, to the wetlands. But the keyhole lots, as I mentioned to you, the fire services wanted a 26-foot wide road, to get access, to have access with their, with their equipment. And that's when we said, there were 3 keyhole lots. By the time we get done doing the 26-foot wide driveways, we would be, having even more impacts. So that's why we extended the cul-de-sac. But extending the cul-de-sac, created some additional problems, Joe. So we'll have to revisit that, and to the south of it, I think we had less of an impact if you look at that. But that layout was totally different. We had the other cul-de-sac. They got us some lots closer, to the northway. So.
Okay, I think a lot of good statements were made today. Joe gave a good review. I think Sean added a lot, and I think the problem of having grading restrictions and deed covenants in the backyards, I think, and Sean's in a position to say that it's not a desirable thing from the town's perspective.
Yeah, understood.
Yeah,
Understood.
and I think Chief summed it up. This is an engineering challenge, and we have a good engineer here to meet the challenge, I'm sure.
Thank you, Peter. There, as we all know, all the good parcels have been already developed in the town. So we're working with what we're given, and this is a challenging site. So we'll put our thinking cap back on, and we'll get you a revised layout as soon as we can.
Okay, and I'll just say, bottom line, I think you got to seriously think about reducing the number of lots. This is not a maximum build out size lot, in my opinion. So
yeah, no,
Peter?
Yes. Oh, Paul, did I skip you? I'm sorry.
How could that happen?
Yeah, sorry. Hi.
Hey, Nick,
Yeah,
you
but
talked
wait,
about,
I guess.
you talked about a vinyl fence along the backs of the
Yes.
houses on Dunsback.
Yes.
Is that a proposed fence?
No, it's existing. That's existing. It's if you go out there.
Yeah, I've been out there. I didn't know whether you planned on keeping that in place.
Oh, yeah, no, we have to. I think it's actually, it's pretty much on the property line. Some of it is on our side of the property, and some of it, it meanders, obviously. You can see it on the plans that, it goes on both sides of the property line. So I don't know who owns the fence, but we're certainly not going to be taking down the fence. There's no reason for us to take down the fence, so it's going to remain there.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, I think if there's no objection, we'll table this matter and continue the application to a future date.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, no objection from the board, then
Um,
then that's what we'll do. Okay.
Stay
Any
well,
further-
Nick.
Take care of yourself, Nick.
See you later, Nick.
Any further business before this board? Sean or Joe or anybody or any of the board members?
I have nothing else for you tonight.
Okay, thank you. Stay healthy and we'll see you next time.
Night, everybody.
Good
Good night,
night.
folks.
Stay well.
It
Be
it was
safe.
light out tonight when the meeting started, so that